Until today, we had not heard from the NFL commissioner in more than a week, and of course there has been a lot to talk about. 4 of Roger Goodell's players have been accused of domestic violence in the last few weeks. Well, marketing expert Rick Laney is standing by live in the newsroom to talk about what has really become a major PR issue for the NFL. And Rick, before we get to you, we do want to hear a little bit about what Roger Goodell had to say this afternoon.
I got it wrong on a number of levels, from the process that I led to the decision that I reached. But now I will get it right and do whatever is necessary to accomplish that.
Rick, I'm sure you had a chance to listen in on some of that news conference today. What was your impression after hearing from the commissioner?
It was a good press conference. I feel like it was probably 2 or 3 weeks late in coming, but other than that, I thought it was good. I mean, the first rule of handling a crisis like this, Kristen, is to be the first one out. If someone has a nasty story about you to tell, you want to be the one telling it. And so I feel like the NFL waited too long. The other 2 rules are to handle it consistently and thoroughly, and to make sure that you've looked really into the issue as far as you can, and then to be consistent with your response.
You said multiple times there you think they waited too long to actually speak, but do you also feel at the same time he had to eventually come out and speak today, or at some point?
Absolutely. He didn't have any choice, and I mean, the NFL, like any other business, the thing that usually prompts them is the financial aspect of it. And when you have major advertisers who are threatening to pull out, and when you have large groups of your demographics, I mean, the NFL has been targeting women for the past few years, trying to build a larger audience with women. When there's a financial impact, they're usually pretty quick to act.
You know, I've got to ask, along that same line, so many people talking about this, a lot of people incredibly upset about the way things have been handled. Do you think it will trickle down to ticket sales? And if it doesn't, will the NFL really, you know, quote unquote, learn its lesson?
It could. There are some conflicting reports. There have been a number of surveys in the last few weeks that looked at whether this was going to have an impact on ticket sales. Depending on whose numbers you're looking at, some say that it will and some say that it really won't have that big of an impact. I do think that where the impact will be felt financially would be if advertisers like Anheuser-Busch or Budweiser start pulling out.
You know, Rick, we would be out of line if we didn't address the real issue here, which of course is domestic violence. And recently ESPN reported that domestic violence accounts for nearly half of all of the arrests of violent crimes among NFL players. That is a pretty startling number to look at. In your opinion, what can the NFL really do now to convince people they're doing enough to deal with this problem?
They need to take action. They need to figure out what their policy is and what they're going to tolerate and what they're not going to tolerate in reference to this type of activity, and then consistently take action. I mean, the bottom line is this Sunday you have 1 player who's suspended and 2 other players, one from the Carolina Panthers and another from the San Francisco 49ers, who will be taking the field this week. And so I guess my opinion is that they still aren't addressing this issue consistently, and they need to quickly figure out a policy and then stick to it across the board.
And of course we will stay on top of this. Rick, thank you so much for your insight.
Thanks, Kristen.
All right, well, now to some safety concerns, everyone, about